Welcome back, everyone, to Pod of Thrones. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
And she's laughing already. Tell them why you're laughing, because I find it hilarious.
Okay, so before we have to start our podcast, we have to get a sample of silence. So that
just the ambient noise in the room.
Ambient noise, right. So every time we do that, I feel like I have to either hold my breath.
Which I say not to do.
Right, or breathe super quietly. And then in doing so, I start to lose my breath. and then I'm starting to struggle to breathe. And I'm still trying to breathe quietly at the same time. It's the worst. I'm just going to walk away from now on.
It's okay to breathe. That's all.
I know, but I feel like
said that.
When I think about myself breathing, I breathe more heavily, no matter what. It's weird. Or I'm just more aware, but I get really self-conscious.
Well, welcome to the show, folks. We're going to talk about Handmaid's Tale today, but I think we have a couple orders of business first. I have a Game of Thrones headline. What do you got?
I have a Game of Thrones headline, too.
Oh, you start, because, this used to be Jennifer's headline corner, after all.
Right? You used to do that. Okay, so on my news feed this week, when you just scroll to the left and you got your stupid news feed based on what you've watched before or looked at.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so on my news feed, I get this article called Sophie Turner wore a controversial shoe and pants combo for date night with Joe Jonas.
Controversial, huh?
Right.
Shoe and pants combo?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I click the link and it says...
Oh, I know why.
Why?
Because all she had on was shoes and pants.
No, but...
It's too bad. That'd be awesome.
She wore... Oh, so it says they went out for a night, date night, and both of them looked incredibly chic for their date.
Mm-hmm.
She went braless under a white tank that she paired with baggy blue jeans that ballooned out into another layer of fabric, which looked really giant. Oh, actually, this is... They said, which really looked like giant pockets, but it doesn't really look like giant pockets. I don't know. Anyway, and that's the controversy. That's it.
The controversy is that her pants were big?
Maybe that she was braless. You do see a lot of nipple. A lot.
Like her shirt is kind of see-through or just tight?
In this day and age, I think...
Oh, well,
that's
it's a little chilly outside. Okay.
Yeah. It's not too controversial. But
that's not see-through. There have been way bigger celebrity scandals who wore stuff, like a black dress that turns out that when all the flashes go off from the paparazzi, you can see everything.
Yeah.
This is nothing like that.
I like it when that happens. I just find it so funny that it's the controversy. When we've got so many more important things going on in our world and in this day and age, women show boob all the time. It's like a man showing his chest.
Free the tatas.
Yes.
Oh, what's it called? Free the nipple movement. Isn't that the thing?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that on a very old Kid Free Weekend podcast many a year ago.
And again, I would not even... when I was younger, sure. But nowadays, I would not go about town... braless generally, unless I'm wearing a really baggy shirt.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something about just going shirtless. Damn.
Well, I wouldn't do that either because I'm self-conscious about my body, but it hurts your boobs if they're not supported. Because once you get older, it's not like I have incredibly saggy boobs or anything, but I don't know, gravity, it hurts. Gravity.
Well, was that a problem when you were younger too, though? Or is it easier to go braless when you're younger?
I didn't go braless when I was younger because that was not the
thing
or the in thing to do.
But if you were to.
I didn't.
Even if you were around the house? No? Not even that? No. So you have no idea?
Well, I know what it's like to go braless, yes. But not for walking around as bathing suits, okay, but...
Well, doesn't that offer support?
Back when I was in the 80s, the thing to do was to wear these padded push-up bras that pushed your boobs together. And that's still the thing to do for a lot of people. But nowadays, the thing to do for young people is to not wear a bra at all. Because gender equality, right?
Look, I'm fine with that unless it's uncomfortable.
It hurts for me.
I don't understand guys that don't wear underpants because the the balls could use some support too. You know, we have our saggy parts.
Sure. That's the same thing, I'm sure. I don't know that it would hurt if I got kicked in the boobs as much as it hurts you. Probably not.
You probably wouldn't enjoy it.
But it wouldn't be pleasant.
I'm just saying support is handy. There are parts of both biological genders that could use support.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, there we go. Sorry, that was more than 10 seconds. I said I was going to be 10 seconds.
That's okay. No, that was a big controversy. I'm glad we covered that.
Yeah.
We deliver the hard news here.
Yeah.
Speaking of hard news, and this might be hard to swallow, you know, George R.R. Martin, the guy that wrote Game of Thrones, the show that the fictional work that this show was founded upon, he's been having a hard time finishing his books. And there was a headline. This was actually a few weeks ago now, but I forgot to talk about it on our last podcast. George R.R. Martin is developing a live stage spectacular for Broadway, West End, and Australia that will bring fan favorites like Ned Stark and Jaime Lannister back to life while dramatizing a legendary event in Westeros history. I mean...
How do you feel about that?
Well, we got to go see it, but...
Where?
Well, I guess Broadway, but also London and Australia.
Okay.
Broadway's an easier goal for us. But yeah, it's probably going to... its first show is expected to launch in 2023. So we have time. COVID will be over by then, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. There might be a new plague, but who knows? How do I feel about him working on another project? I mean, that's a question. My feelings are pretty numb at this point. I feel like we're just never going to get that fucking book.
That's okay. It's okay. You know what? He's a short timer. He's got to do the things in his life that make him happy.
Of course.
So if he doesn't get to that book, we just have to end the story the way it ended. His book's story. Now, I'm not talking about like there's a separation between the show.
Look, that raises a lot of important questions because when the show got started with Weiss and Benioff, those dudes.
Maybe that's George R.R. Martin's real ending secretly, and he told them that.
That's what I was going to say, is that he told them how the story was going to end.
And they were supposed to produce something different. I thought I read.
Yeah, maybe. There was some talk at one point that, like, I think he said, he went on record and said, like, some elements of books are going to be the same as what you see in the show, you know, in terms of what hasn't been written yet. And some stuff will be the same, but these guys know how the books are going to end. So there was some kind of statement to that effect. I mean, he hasn't talked a lot of shit about the way the series ended. And some people, look, there are fans, there are people that watch the whole series and really liked season 8. Don't feel dead inside like some of us do.
Well, I don't feel dead inside. I just was disappointed.
It was disappointing. We got to rewatch it sometime.
What would you have liked the ending to be?
Boy, look, that's a big topic. I mean,
I feel like you should enjoy that ending because you are such an Arya fan.
But she didn't. Look, she killed the Night King. That was awesome. That was halfway through the shortened season.
You know what?
And then for the rest of the episodes, she didn't do shit. Except be like, hey, John, I'm not sure if you should trust Daenerys. She seems like she might be dangerous after she just burned a whole city down. Like, she didn't do anything. I didn't need to see her on the throne necessarily.
They should have ended it at the killing of the Night King.
Well, yeah, that should... Look, at a basic level, and I'm sure we've said this before, but in my opinion, Winterfell should have fallen, and the Night King should have made it down south, so that Cersei could actually feel the consequences of her actions. She never suffered any real consequences. She died. She got crushed by some rocks.
Yeah,
that's
we wanted
not justice.
More vindication on her, didn't we?
Right, we wanted more vindication on her, and... I mean, the Night King was, not him personally, but yeah, the undead, the White Walkers, they were the threat from the very first scene of the show. And then they just went out in one battle.
You know what's funny? Maybe they just couldn't figure out a way to get them to the heated area. They would get all sunburned.
They bring the cold with them. Winter is coming.
I guess so, but maybe it was just too much. It was too hot.
So he just gave up.
It would have melted.
I feel like they could have done better. Yeah, because everything about that part of the plot, if we had let Winterfell fall, that would have changed so many other parts of the season and the final ending.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we still need to rewatch season 8. And speaking of rewatching, Lore Master Kevin did reach out to me, and he would like to do one of those marathons. And I don't know when we would have time for it, but we could make time. He wants to do the A Good Walk Spoiled. Love a good spoiler. Marathon through the most unforgettable and shocking moments in the series, including Ned's death, the Battle of Blackwater, of course.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
The Red
Let's
Wedding, the Mountain and the Viper. All those episodes were like shocking things happened. So we could do that. If so, Lore Master Kevin will be in for it with us. So if we want to make time for it, that means we got to stop watching other TV for a while. I know. Speaking of other TV, we were going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale today.
Mm-hmm.
So we are, I was thinking about this. We are the king and queen of being late to the party.
Always.
I don't know why.
We're suck.
We just discovered this amazing.
Well, people have suggested things to us, and we haven't even watched some of them. Some of them we have.
A few. I mean, we've been pretty good about getting to a lot of them, but it's a long list too.
Right? It's a long list.
It's a long list. But we recently discovered this awesome sitcom you guys should check out. It's called Modern Family. It went off the air after 11 seasons last year. And now we're all in.
Oh my God, it's so good. I couldn't believe we've never seen it before.
I had heard about it for years.
Every single episode makes me laugh hard.
Yeah. It's a pretty great freaking show, but we just started watching it now. I don't know what's wrong with us.
It's aged well.
We didn't start Pod of Thrones or watching Game of Thrones until 4 seasons in.
We're busy people, sort of.
And we have ADD. It's hard to stay focused.
Yeah. I mean, I did 3 paintings yesterday. And we watched like 5 episodes of Modern Family.
You've got a new hobby. You're doing, what's it called? Pour painting? Not P-O-O-R, P-O-U-R. Pouring the paint.
Pour.
Yeah, I think pour, not poor. Poor would be.
Poor.
Poor people. Yeah, new hobbies pop up. There's things to do with the kids. There's things to do around the house. We have all these TV shows backed up. Video games that we play.
House is breaking down.
Sometimes. Yeah.
There we are.
We'll get around to it. But if you want to do the marathon,
yes,
we can do it.
We're doing it.
So
I'm doing it. I don't care.
You heard it, Lore Master Kevin, if you're listening.
We're going to have to cut some other hobbies.
We'll take some time and we'll do a marathon. And then we'll talk about it. So The Handmaid's Tale, speaking of shows that we were late to the party on, we just started watching this during COVID because we needed something to do. We didn't have enough shows on our plate. And it roped us in pretty quick, huh?
Yeah.
Within the first episode or 2, it was like, fuck. It's another one of those cliffhanger shows, isn't it? Like the way Game of Thrones sucked us in with pushing a little boy out of a window. Mm-hmm. In the first episode.
Yes.
Handmaid's Tale makes sure never to quite satisfy enough. And it just leaves you going, fuck, at the end of each episode or season.
Yes. You can't help but binge that one because it's all out there and it's so good.
And stressful.
It's gripping.
So stressful.
Oh my gosh, so much stress. Makes my regular everyday stress feel okay. Makes me feel better about my own stress.
So I thought for anyone that was thinking about watching the show, maybe and just going to jump right in with season 4. I don't know if people do that, but some people do. Or people that have watched the show before, but it's been a long time between the end of season 3 and then COVID and now finally season 4 coming up. I thought we could just take a walk through this show together.
Okay.
Just do a little refresher. We're not going to hit all the plot points, but if stuff comes to mind, speak up. If it's something that's not in my notes, let's talk about it. But I think as season 4 goes on, then we'll have some little flashbacks to do just to catch ourselves up with certain characters and storylines as we go. I thought we'd take a look at the basics of the show. And for starters, let's talk about the world, the backstory. It's
Okay.
sort of the near now.
Right.
Except in this particular universe, birth rates have declined dramatically.
Yeah, maybe like 10 years from now.
Now, the thing is, birth rates have declined
Mhm.
amongst our younger population in the real world.
Because they're smarter.
Well, and they can't afford it.
Right.
There's all this talk about, like, millennials or whatever what's the new generation? Younger than millennials.
Gen X?
No, that's us.
Oh.
We're Gen X. I don't know if it's Gen Z or if it's I don't know.
Maybe
I can't keep
it's
track of all
XY.
the gens. But I remember it started with millennials. It was like millennials are going back and living with their parents and they're not having as much sex and they're not
Right.
having kids and they're not buying houses. And all these things as if there's some kind of like millennials are just shitheads that don't want to grow up.
Right.
Is that really what it is?
No, it's that they can't afford to
Right.
go out on their own.
Right.
Ridiculous. They're trying to
Student
save.
loans are crushing.
Right. Student loans, or they're trying to save for a home, which will take them forever.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to find a job that pays you what you're worth because corporations run our lives. It's so multifaceted, and property values keep going up. Rents are designed to also be soul crushing, much like student debt. It's a system that works against people getting ahead.
Right.
So yeah, birth rates are down now.
Right. But in this show, they're down because of
People are trying.
reproductive problems.
Yeah. People are trying, but they're just not having babies. Now
And is that due to, did we find out what that was due to? Did they say?
No, see, no one ever really quite figured it out. And now in our world again, though, there are things that could still happen. There is speculation that we're going to lose our ability to reproduce at a certain point just from all like these weird chemicals that have gotten into our systems and stay there forever. We don't know what kind of long-term effects they're going to have. There are people that speculate that a population decline could be the result of that. So the Handmaid's Tale world that they've established is all very possible. And then, okay, so in the show, they don't know why people couldn't were having such a hard time having babies or viable babies on top of that. A lot of babies would die after birth too. They were just not fully viable children. So this, especially the fact that it's unknown, leads to a rise in religion. Hardcore religion. People looking for answers, which is something that religion can be good for. I mean, even from a mental health perspective, sometimes trying to find meaning to events that happen can help people. And I appreciate that. But it can also be used for bad.
Right. Or people think that they are doing good, but in turn, things go awry.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Morality being kind of a subjective thing, that is one of the tricky parts of religion, is someone can think, for just as a first example that pops into my head, someone could think it is just and good and in the name of God that we try to cure homosexuality. That we try to get it out of you so that you can become, closer to God by being straight. People think that they're doing the right thing because someone taught them that. I mean, it's all like who raises you, right?
It's
Whether
like
it's your parents. Yeah. Well, sure. Absolutely.
Now, there are downsides to not, like, for instance, I have raised my kids I didn't want to expose them to religion. I wanted them to experience themselves so they could make their own choices. But I kind of regret, because now they're like so reluctant to go to church. And sometimes church can be a place for good community. Sometimes,
Right.
And there are secular churches, just like places of community where they go and they talk about doing good or.
Well, and there's forms of religion, Unitarianism comes to mind, which
Right.
is, it's not about Jesus. It's just about.
But then there's also
doing the
evil
right
people
thing.
behind that trying to make money.
Well, there's always some people, but like I raised my kids Jewish, but and Judaism is not always perfect, but in the most progressive kind of Judaism, I was very happy the first time I joined a synagogue in California with my young daughter, who was, I think, maybe 3 or 4. and I wanted to get her into Sunday school. And when we took a tour of this one synagogue, I pretty quickly found out that the rabbi that we met was a lesbian. So a woman, first of all, I don't remember.
That's weird. Oh, I think you told me she said like mentioned her partner or something.
Maybe. And there were also like signs up in this, like this was during Prop 8 in California, which I'm sure a lot of you, at least Americans, have heard of because it was such a big deal. It went to the Supreme Court, and that's when gay marriage became legal nationwide. But it started in California, and there were signs up in the synagogue of, anti-Prop 8 stuff. So that was pretty nice to see. And then the rabbi was a lesbian. And just being a woman in the first place, kind of a big deal. Like Judaism has progressed nicely, but again, not all of Judaism. And then an open lesbian on top of that was pretty great. So it was nice to know that I was going to have Sydney, my daughter, in a positive environment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The good side of religion, right?
Right. The good place.
Right. Exactly. So there is a movement in the fictional America called the Sons of Jacob, and they are a hardcore right-wing religious extremist group who then takes things to a violent place, and they stage a coup. We don't get to see much. I think mostly just news stories that we see, like during Handmaid's Tale is full of flashbacks. And during these flashbacks, we see some news stories, and we piece together that they bombed the White House, they stormed the Capitol, and they might have also done something to the Supreme Court, but it's kind of unclear.
I sound familiar.
And then you think, this could never happen here.
Yeah.
Fuck, I mean...
During that time, I'm like, gosh, I'm glad America isn't like that. Let's not let that happen.
I think we watched this during 2020. So like the storm, January 6th, that hadn't happened yet.
Right.
But I was watching the shit in the show thinking, it feels like in this powder keg we're living in that this shit could happen. And we came a little too close, didn't we? I mean...
We got almost to home base.
Because in the show, the Sons of Jacob killed the president, maybe the vice president, killed a bunch of people in Congress, and just used that power vacuum to assume control.
Mm-hmm.
We were so close. I mean, they were going to kill Mike Pence, Nancy Pelosi, probably anyone else that they could find that wasn't quote unquote on their side.
Right.
And it's these fucking psychos making those judgment calls.
Yeah.
And the only difference would have been that they were going to keep Trump in power.
Remember the guys that were standing around the book of whoever was in the Congress that day or whatever?
They were looking at Ted Cruz's stuff?
Like, yeah. And they're like, he's going to go down. And they're like, oh, no, he's good. He's on our side, dude.
Yeah, they were reading his notes and interpreting it wrong and thinking that they might have to also kill Ted Cruz. And then one of them was like,
no, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
One of them actually passed like 4th grade reading comprehension and talked the rest of them down. Like, just... That's the sort of people that wind up being in charge in The Handmaid's Tale. Basically, right? I mean...
Yeah, a little more high polished, or at least they were afterward.
Yeah, they put polish on it. They all wear suits and ties and act very dignified, but it's those kinds of people that take
commanders,
over this world.
People like Mike Pence minded, but violent.
Oh, Mike Pence would totally be a commander in The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
And he would totally fall in love with a handmaid.
Oh my gosh!
Because he is a broken man inside. Unfortunately, I could imagine. I'm like picturing like just like a video Photoshop kind of thing of like his face where Fred in the show where his just gross, just gross.
Would we get in trouble for doing that if we did that?
No, not unless it's during some act of violence against Fred, which there's not a lot of. So. So that's sort of the backstory of the world. And there's tons of other flashbacks for each character. We learn what life was like in the before times when they were just normal people living a normal life, usually a happy life, getting by. And then all the shit went down. So the Sons of Jacob suspended the Constitution and reformed America as the Republic of Gilead. This led to a civil war, mind you. There are parts of America that didn't go along for the ride, but the Sons of Gilead have been, I think, winning a lot of those battles. So, like, I know Texas, Chicago, I think Maine is still part of the, like, resistance. And then there's other things that happen. We don't know what, but there are places in the country called the colonies. How would you describe the colonies?
Well, I mean, I think we know that it appears as if a nuclear bomb went off there, or
it seems like it.
Yeah, something radioactive.
We know the air is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the difference would be, or maybe there could have been chemical warfare, I guess, but
maybe
it seems
it's like
maybe
Santa No-Free had exploded or something.
The nuclear plant, like there was a meltdown. Yeah, maybe. Which
That's
could have been
like.
It could have been part of a terrorist act instead of like firing a missile within your own borders.
Right.
That's true. That's true. So yeah, then there's the colonies, which are these awful toxic wastelands in the middle, just sort of.
And these poor women are out there just like digging.
And at first,
dig.
And at first in the show, yeah, you're supposed to dig up the toxic dirt and put it in a bin.
So they're trying to clean the site.
I guess, but I don't think it's going to work. But in the beginning of the show, we don't know what the colonies are. They say, if you misbehave, you'll be sent off to the colonies. And there's part of me thinking like, well, that doesn't sound so bad. Go be a colonist, dude. Just go start up a civilization on a fresh new world. Maybe it's like Australia, like a prison colony kind of thing. Like that would be all right. They turned out okay.
It seems like something happened within the nation. I don't know. I feel like these people did that to whatever that land is.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, but I hope we get the actual answer as to what it is someday. I hate those kind of unanswered questions, even if it's kind of obvious. I still would like to see that in a flashback. So as the story begins, we meet June, who is on the run with her husband Luke and their daughter Hannah, but they do not make it to wherever it was they were going. Pretty sure it was probably Canada. And June gets captured. We don't know what happens to Luke. There's gunshots. We think he's dead. Hannah gets dragged off as a little child by some armed men. June gets knocked out and dragged off by armed men. And then next thing we know, she has a new name of Offred.
Yeah, after some training, lengthy training.
Yeah, lots of flashbacks to training at a place called the Red Center, where women get trained to become handmaids. Mm-hmm. So the whole concept of the handmaid is babies for the rich.
Right. They're like incubators.
Yep.
Except they get to be raped also.
So it's pure classism. Like the commanders are just better people than the normal idiots. Well, so we're going to make sure that they can have babies. I'm sure they must be smarter. They're genetically superior, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. So they get to have babies when they
even though they're not fertile.
Right.
They're much better than everybody else. And
all the infertility is blamed on the women, which of course we find out is not necessarily the case.
Right.
It turns out that Fred, June's commander, is probably not fertile himself. But no one's going to blame shit on men because that's not how this form of Christianity works.
Right.
Uh-huh. I'll just say this form of Christianity.
Whatever it is.
Yep.
Puritanism.
So what we learn is that there is a ritual spawned from some verse in the Bible about handmaids and how
she should go unto
Rachel,
him.
Rachel and Leah, because I think the Red Center, or the new one of them's called the Rachel and Leah Center. I believe it's like Rachel's trying to have a baby, but she can't. So she tells her husband to lay with Leah, the handmaid, to get them a baby.
Right.
And that's all it takes sometimes. It doesn't matter what the rest of the Bible says about things like infidelity or whatever, but
every woman's friend should lay with their husband to give them a baby.
Right. Yeah. So what we do then is we take women.
Was it her friend or her sister?
I thought it was her quote unquote handmaid, like a servant.
Okay.
That's what I thought it was supposed to be in the Bible. I could be wrong.
Her slave.
Yeah, I think so. And becomes sex slave. So this world says like, well, if you're like a devoted Christian and you're married and you guys can have kids, cool. You can just keep doing that shit. But if you're not a believer, or if you're some kind of deviant, let's just say a lesbian, for example, what were the other things that could get you? I don't know, maybe a criminal. Like there's different classifications of people that are all bad.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are
if you
fertile,
had a tattoo,
probably, if you're fertile and you fall into those categories, we will just turn you into a vessel.
Mm-hmm. You're a handmaid.
Yep. That seems to me like the Bible verse. Maybe it was rapey. Maybe it wasn't. I mean, it's the Bible. It was written thousands of years ago, but
by a man.
And by a man. Yep.
Or men.
But you have to think like maybe they had a relationship, they were sort of a close-knit family unit in the first place. She worked with him for years. Maybe she agreed to it. She's like, sure, I'll help you have a baby. I don't have a man anyway, whatever the case may be. This is not what that is. This is just rape.
Right. And servitude.
Yep. So the man gets to make a baby, and then they pretend that baby belongs to the husband and wife.
Oh my God, it's such a weird ritual.
That takes... Okay, describe the ritual.
Okay, so once a month during the fertile time of the handmaid's cycle, she is to go and have sex with the commander while she lays between the legs of the commander's wife. And
well, they start with a Bible reading. They start with a Bible reading. Don't forget that part.
Well,
I mean, you got to have a Bible.
I mean, this is what sticks out in my mind. That while the wife of the commander will hold her wrists, and the handmaid lays she's got her butt at the end of the bed, and she's got to put her legs, I guess, kind of up in the air while I think he's holding her legs. I'm not sure. Anyway, the man comes in and, I don't know, says some things or something, and then he just basically rapes her.
And he stays clothed. Like, it's not
good,
no matter how you slice it.
All the clothes are on.
Like, it's not good for anybody. It can't be. I mean, even as the raper, if you're into this idea, but you're you have to be standing, your clothes all stay on. You don't think that's a turn on
for man? For man?
I don't know. I mean, it's so passionless. I think it would only be a turn on if you sort of
if everybody was into it.
dig rape. Yeah, I mean, if everybody was into it, again, if it's a throuple, and it's just some kind of fun, kinky thing you guys are into, then sure, whatever. But you'd also probably take your clothes off and have some fun with it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't even, no, he wasn't holding her legs. I think her legs are just dangling off the edge of the bed, because there was one point in the show, I'm not sure which season.
They're not supposed to touch.
Right, Fred touches June's leg during one of these rituals.
June was like, stop it.
You're going to get, if your wife sees that, you're screwed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the dynamic here. So June is sent to live in this house with Fred. So she becomes of Fred, or because there's two F's in a row, Offred. Mm-hmm. Seems kind of unfair to the other girls.
And the wife is completely jealous.
Yeah, that's Serena. She is not happy about these arrangements. And we come to learn that a lot of this shit's her fault. She helped develop the revolutionary
She wrote
screed.
The book.
Yeah, she wrote a book about how women should be subservient to men. Mm-hmm. She's a well-educated, well-spoken, intelligent, impressive lady. And then she takes all that and turns it into women are the worst.
Well, I don't think that's what she intended. She might have intended for everybody to be consensual. I don't know.
Well, I don't know that the handmaid's part was her idea. But
right.
the idea of a religious revolution was.
Yes. And, we don't know what was in that book.
It's true. I looked on Amazon. There's no copies of it available.
That'd be cool. Oh, we should write that.
Oh, God. That would be painful to write, wouldn't it?
It'd be kind of fun to write a horror story.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. So Fred and Serena, they have June. Serena's kind of a shithead, and she's happy to slap June around and put her in her place. And then Fred is at first seemingly just kind of a mousy, almost nice guy, kind of shy, maybe. He comes across as maybe this won't be that bad. I think. I mean, some of these guys are monsters, but he seems kind of gentle and he gives a damn about the fact that June is a person that's here to help them out.
Right.
Serena's having none of that. But It turns out Fred's kind of a creep. just in a different way. Like, he's not super violent, but he wants to build a fantasy relationship with June.
Yeah.
Which he's done before.
Right. And we find out something happened to the last handmaid.
But yeah, he was inappropriate with her,
He broke
I guess.
her.
And she had to go.
She hung herself.
Oh, that's right. She killed herself.
Yeah.
That's why she had to go. She was stinking up the place. Yo, you're right. You're right. She killed herself, and it was all just, I mean, who knows the psychology of any of this, but at least part of it was this being caught in this world where, like, Serena can't know that Fred's in love with the handmaid, but Fred's in love with the handmaid and is trying to take things to a new level that
I wouldn't say love.
Forbidden. Well, I don't know either. I mean, Fred's a creep, so he probably doesn't.
His kind of love.
Yeah. Yeah, his version.
But this is what happens to men when you take away all intimacy from your wife.
And also, like, there's nothing else to do. Like, you can't jerk off. Like, I mean, you can, I guess. It's probably forbidden, but you can't be
Seems like that was a mistake.
There's no porn. There's no even, like, movies. Like, you can't just watch, like, a sexy movie, even if it's not porn. Like, there's no outlet for desire and passion.
They don't even have TV, right?
They don't have TV. Yeah, and it's weird because, like, they still have cars. Like, they've created a dystopia. It's not one that was forced upon them, like, in a post-apocalyptic world. This is one where they've just decided there's no more TV and maybe radio, but we still have cars and guns and, telephones, the things that internet. They still have internet. They still send emails back and forth.
Yeah.
But they don't have fun. They don't have board games. Like, it was a big deal that Fred had a copy of Scrabble hidden away. Mm-hmm. They don't have fun. That's not going to be good for society.
Right. I don't understand where they think that that's good.
Like, even if you're a loving husband and wife,
you're supposed to make your own fun, I guess.
Well, and maybe the goal is to repopulate the earth, right? To increase population. So if you don't have anything else to do that are distractions, maybe you fuck more.
But no, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to take pleasure.
I'm talking about, like, the normal folk.
Oh, the normal. Okay.
If you're an econo wife or an econo husband, econo families in this world. So you can still fuck and you can have kids if you're capable. So that's okay.
Can you?
You're allowed to have kids, yeah. I think it's encouraged even. But
there's probably no birth control.
Oh, I'm sure there's no birth control. Of course there's no birth control. Oh, and everything's they do a lot of, like, it's all organic farming.
Oh, that's right. There's a whole thing.
They're trying to purify things. And those are fine intentions, get some of the chemicals out of our systems. I'm just saying, like, if you have nothing to entertain yourself, but you get to have sex whenever you want, like, you'll have sex. That's fine. That's great. But even that, like, if that's all you had to do, that would get boring eventually. You
can do other things. You can go fishing.
Well, it's nice to be able to, like, watch a scary movie and then you're all like, oh, and then you're stimulated, like, psychologically, and then maybe you go and have really good sex and maybe that makes a baby. Who knows? But, like, there's nothing to do. They have nothing to do except pray and try to have babies.
So why you like to go to scary movies?
What? Is that why I like to go?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that's not why I like to. I'm just stop it.
I understand.
Giving that as an example. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so there's a whole thing. Fred is trying to romance June, basically, right? Like, he's giving her some more privileges. Like, they can play Scrabble, which involves reading. And normally, if you read, you get a finger cut off.
Right.
If you're a woman, of course. So they sort of start this whole thing. It's like a secret affair. Serena goes out of town at one point to visit her mom or something. And then Fred takes her to a place called Jezebel's, which is this fancy hotel that's also a whorehouse. And she's the whore. Right.
Right. It's weird.
That they get to gamble and
like
drink.
Their pleasure.
Yeah. It's everything.
Pleasure castle.
Well, and it is exactly what you see so many times. Like Matt Gaetz, for example. Matt Gaetz in the real world, this hardcore, hard right, moralistic crusader that's worried about the decline in our society. And now, it turns out he's like a sex trafficker and likes to fuck teenage girls.
Yep.
Like, that is the shit we see all the time out of our leaders. And of course, it's not going to be any different in a world where fundamentalists take over, because everybody likes to have fun, man. And if that means having a drink and gambling, great. If it means having freaky sex, of course you're going to want to have freaky sex, because you know it's a thing and it feels good and it's fun. So these guys, as we always see, are just the worst of the hypocrites. They will hang you from a wall for doing even a tenth of the shit that they do at Jezebel's.
Yep.
Fucking, it's so realistic. It makes me so angry. The realism, the sheer realism of this weird fantasy dystopian show.
And all before any of this came out.
Right.
All of this happened before most of the sex scandal.
Well, I think the original book was written in like the late 70s or mid 80s or something, like a long time ago. This book is decades old, The Handmaid's Tale, and very, very prophetic and scary in that way, because it really does seem like we're heading down this path.
Yes.
Yeah. Very scary. So we have to be aware, and we got to keep talking about it. It's important. It could save us all. We also have a side plot going with Nick. Nick works for Fred and Serena. I can't remember their last name. And he is seemingly kind of a nice guy. He's Fred's driver. And he's also a spy. He's a member of the secret police known as the Eyes. But since Fred doesn't seem to have any viable sperm, and Serena really wants a baby and doesn't want to piss off her husband, she gets this funny idea that if she makes Nick have sex with June, then she could have a baby.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
And they're not like very careful about any of this, which is part of the whole stress.
Like Serena too?
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like that a lot of what happens is like they could get caught at any moment.
They sure could. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is like Fred's off at work, but on the other hand,
there are guards.
You can see people going like from the house to the garage, from the street. Yeah, there's guards everywhere. There's police everywhere. And there's also the Eyes, and no one knows who the Eyes are. And
right.
Nick happens to be one of them, but luckily he's not a zealot. He's just trying to survive like the rest of everybody.
Kind of.
More or less. So, of course, feelings start developing between Nick and June. And June decides that she's just going to have sex for fun now. Because
she likes it.
She thinks her husband's dead, too.
Well, she doesn't know.
Well, she heard a gunshot.
Oh, that's right. She heard the gunshot. Yeah. So, yeah, she thinks her husband's dead.
She thinks her husband's dead. She doesn't know what happened to her daughter. So they start having a relationship of sorts. And then...
And that's the part where I'm like, you guys, somebody's coming. they're like...
Right. She's just hanging out in his garage. Like
whispering to each other and kissing.
Oh, yeah, that stuff, too. Yeah, in the house. He'll just like tell her, I want to fuck you again or something. And then, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yep. Well, sound doesn't travel in TV shows.
Oh.
Not like it does in the real world. Oh, my God. So many things. And this is still just season 1. But we have Moira, June's best friend. She works at Jezebel's.
They see each other. Yay.
They see each other. And then there's this revolutionary plot. So the handmaids have their own little secret network that they're trying to cause trouble, and ideally to get the world to pay attention on what's going on, maybe put some pressure on America to stop being rapers. And that leads us to Emily a little bit. That was June's first friend. And then there's another girl. I can't remember her name right now. But there's a package at Jezebel's. June has to go back there and get this package out, but Moira winds up doing it for her, and then Moira escapes to Canada, and the package was full of letters, which winds up coming back. But it's like letters from all these women describing, like trying to get mail out of the country, describing what's happening within the borders of America. But this revolution is like starting, like it's starting to brew. And at the end of the season, there's this one handmaid named Janine who almost put a baby's life in danger. Put her baby's life in danger because she was in love with this dude, the commander. And they were going to stone Janine to death. And June says, "Nuh-uh, we're not doing that."
Well, right, because they've already stoned somebody before. Yeah,
we saw that before as a setup. But then
they seemed happy about that.
Well, he was a raper.
No, they said he laid. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't remember the show.
We don't know how it went down.
But I thought it was that he laid with a handmaid, and maybe that was by choice between the both of them.
Yeah, maybe. We don't know for sure.
So this poor guy gets beaten to death by all the handmaids with rocks. Poor guy.
But
unless he's a raper, then
right, he might have been a raper.
But still, they were all just so eager to. They were just taking out their anger on their situation.
It's a good outlet. You can see it on June's face, especially during that scene, just how pissed off she was.
Interesting tactic, though, by Auntie, whatever her name is. You give rocks to a bunch of women to stone somebody. She's like putting the taste for killing in there.
Yeah, not smart. Yeah. Not smart to teach the handmaids that if they all work together, they could kill some people. Well, yeah, that's Aunt Lydia. You're thinking
Aunt Lydia.
She is the head of the ants, and she's a piece of shit. That was kind of the brief summary of season 1. Now, season 2, June's pregnant with probably Nick's baby, but they think it's Fred's. But June's caused trouble, so she's in the Red Center, the training place for the handmaids. And she has to be a good girl, or else she gets chained to a bed for the rest of her pregnancy. But when she goes for a medical examination, there's this nurse, male nurse, of course, because you can't have women nurses. There's a nurse who helps June escape.
Gives her a key out the back door, right?
Yep, she gets a key out the back door. She winds up in the back of a truck.
Another very tense moment.
And it was a setup by Nick, who helped her get out. And then we have a whole thing where she's living in an old newspaper.
You're right. Her baby's growing. She must have been there for at least a month or more. Mm-hmm. She's jogging around.
Yep.
She makes friends with all the dead people in there. She goes through all the.
She builds a shrine. Yeah, she builds a shrine to all the dead journalists. Because journalists are bad, especially the women, but all of them. So there's a whole plot to get her out. And she winds up fucking over some guy who was part of the resistance. But she had to go to this guy's house because something else went wrong in the escape plan. And so that guy winds up dying, of course. But June almost gets...
about that man in the family?
Yeah.
That was just not cool for you to just gloss that over. That was
there's
huge
so much that
too.
happened.
I know, but this poor man, he didn't want to help her because he knew he was going to get his family in trouble, but she talked him into it, and then he brought her home, and his wife was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then
they went to church.
They went to church and never came back, and so she takes off, and then later she finds out that they hung him.
I think she got to attend his hanging. I think she was there when they finally killed him.
Yeah.
Yep. But they were going to have to torture him for a while.
And what about the family? What happened to them?
Oh, I'm sure they're dead too. Well, maybe not the kids. Kids are important.
And the wife's now a handmaid. They probably gave the kids
to
somebody
else. You're right. She probably is a handmaid. Maybe we'll get to see her again.
Oh.
That'd be a hell of a thing. So here's the thing, though. June almost gets out on an airplane to Canada, but the plane gets stopped. The pilot dies. June just, so many people around her die. But she's still pregnant. So what are you going to do?
She's not going to die.
But in all of this, Nick winds up getting rewarded for being such a loyal servant. Mm-hmm. They never figured out that he was involved in June's escape, and he gets a child bride. So there's another fucked up part of this world.
From Fred. A gift from Fred.
Yeah. He gets
because
a 15-year-old.
Fred now knows that it's Nick's baby.
Oh.
So this is kind of like a screw it into you.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even know if he knew that it was not his baby, but he definitely knew that there was something between June. They had a special relationship, and he couldn't have that. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Serena tells him, and I don't think it's this.
I don't think it's this point. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. He's the reason that Nick gets rewarded with a 15-year-old girl who's it's fine, she's cute, but she's clearly a child. Oh, I feel bad saying that because the actress totally isn't. But she looks very young.
They made her look very young.
It's totally everything out of medieval Europe. As soon as you had a period, you were eligible for marriage.
And the girls were excited about it. Most of them,
Well, sure, they were raised this
is an exciting time. You're a woman now,
right?
You get to go serve a man.
She was very happy, but Nick just couldn't really do his husbandly duties properly.
Yeah.
So that was going to be a little bit of a problem. Then comes a big act of terrorism where so-called terrorism, where one of the handmaids blows herself up to take out a whole bunch of commanders, including
awesome.
like the head commander dude. Fred's in the hospital. A bunch of handmaids are dead.
They were like, it was like, I don't know, what is it called? Inaugurating the new Red Center that they built.
Mm-hmm. I think that was the Rachel and Leia Center, I think. Mm-hmm. So that gets blown up. Now, there are a whole bunch of problems. Now, one of them is that a bunch of handmaids died, so they have to bring this one girl, Emily, who we barely talked about, but she's a lesbian. She caused some problems. They took away her clitoris so that she wouldn't be a lesbian anymore, because that's how that works. And then she was still rebellious and killed a couple people, I think.
Well, then she was just pissed off.
She was sent off to the colonies, but they had to bring her back, and that is eventually kind of important. But they had to bring her back to be a handmaid again because they had a sudden handmaid shortage. The commanders don't have enough women to rape.
Yeah, let's bring the toxic ladies back.
Serena and June wind up kind of becoming...
They also brought back crazy
Janine?
Janine.
Yeah, she's still in service. Oh yeah, she did go to the colonies for a short time, didn't she?
I forgot to mention that they plucked out her eye too.
Oh, Janine has no eye. Yeah, there's tons. All right, so many things.
They plucked it.
for being disrespectful during training. But Serena and June become like partners in crime, literal crime, by issuing orders on Fred's behalf while Fred's in the hospital. Not a smart move. Fred eventually finds out about it and beats the shit out of Serena.
The whips her.
Yep, with a belt, I think. Just beats her good. But they wind up going on this trip to Canada, to diplomatic mission, to trade envoys, stuff like that. And Nick goes along, of course, and meets Luke, of all people, and gives Luke all these letters.
Yes.
And those go out over the internet, and the world starts going like, what? America's depraved? Mm-hmm. How could this be? So that's a bit of a problem. Meanwhile, June gets to go see Hannah once for 5 minutes in this remote house in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Nick gets arrested just for
being somewhere
just for being someplace he shouldn't. Because
they didn't even go look in the house.
This is all a secret mission from Fred. I don't think they did. And then June winds up having the baby all alone in a freezing cold house in the middle of nowhere. But they find her eventually.
You would think somebody would see the smoke stack from the chimney.
She gave herself up.
They knew Nick went out there.
Well, I remember guys were just patrolling and they found Nick. But they didn't see the smoke stack the next patrol. I guess not. But then she winds up giving herself up because she's going to die otherwise. Yeah. Well,
I remember the wolf was going to chase her down and get the baby.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the wolves.
Dingo was going to eat her baby.
And then Serena, having realized that maybe this new world she created wasn't quite okay, asks for the ability to read again. And then reads in front of a bunch of men, out loud, from the Bible. So she has to get a finger cut off. That's not good for her psychologically. It's not great. Not great for her relationship with Fred.
This is her breaking point too.
Yeah, she hits an all new low.
I think that around this time, is it around this time that Offred is now having her breakdown too?
She has so many breakdowns.
She has a breakdown, a total breakdown where she becomes compliant.
Oh, God.
That's after this man gets hung. That's right. Right now, Offred is being very compliant. And
yeah, that wasn't on my radar for the recaps. But
accepting her.
Right. There is a point where, Offred just tries to make peace with the situation.
Right.
And be there with her baby. Because her baby's there now.
Yes.
In the middle of all this, we get to meet Commander Cool, Joseph Lawrence, played by Bradley Whitford, who's just a weird, quirky dude. Now, he's also a piece of shit because he's at the top of people that helped make this revolution happen.
He created the colonies.
He clearly kind of regrets it, at least a little bit.
And he's got a wife with dementia really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really messed up. And Emily, the lesbian handmaid, comes to stay with him. And there's a whole thing, which just, she has freedom in this house and thought she was going to have to kill fucking Commander Joseph, but she doesn't. She winds up trying to kill Aunt Lydia, if that winds up being important later on down the line. But all of this leads to the finale of season 2, where Emily and then baby Nicole, June's baby, June and Nick's baby, they get out thanks to Joseph. He gets them out of the country, but June stays behind on purpose because of Hannah, her first daughter, who she wants to save, even though she has no way of figuring out how to do that. I would like to think that she'd have a better chance outside the borders of the United States to get diplomatic pressure put on fucking Gilead to get her daughter back. But
well, here's the thing. I was thinking about this earlier.
Yeah.
And this is probably what I would do too. You know that your daughter that you're sending is going to be safe, but you know that your daughter that you're leaving is going to be lost forever if you leave. She's going to lose track of her. Right now, she knows what family she's with.
Well, but they moved her. Like, after that whole debacle, they
moved the family.
Hannah. They moved the family. So,
right.
like,
she still knows what family they're with, and somebody's going to talk. It'll get around to her. If she leaves, she can't get back. Her daughter's gone forever.
Yeah. I guess. And, they make it work.
I think I would have stayed too.
So that leads us to season 3. Serena, feeling low, burns down her house. So that was kind of cool to watch. She's not happy with Fred. And June winds up getting assigned to Commander Lawrence because he no longer has a handmaid, and things clearly aren't working out with Fred and Serena. So, June has new freedoms at Joseph's house, and she can work with the Martha Network. Those are the female servants, maids, and cooks and such. The Martha Network to try to save some of the children. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Serena and Fred start getting closer again when they realize that they can get Nicole back via propaganda, putting pressure on the Canadian government to get their daughter back who's been kidnapped. So even though Serena actually let Nicole go.
Right. She regrets it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She sees that Nicole is happy in Canada.
Yeah.
That's
a happy
enough baby.
To make her, God damn it, I want that baby back.
And Nicole wound up with Luke, even though Luke is not biologically related to Nicole at all. It still seems like the best reasonable choice. So, as part of this whole new propaganda move, we wind up going to Washington, D.C. We meet this dude, Commander Winslow. He's another real piece of shit. And we see what happens to the D.C. handmaids. Do you remember?
Yes.
How could you forget, right?
Never.
Talk about it.
Okay. So the D.C. handmaids are not allowed to speak. Therefore, they get their mouths sewn shut, and then they have to wear a red veil in front of their mouth so that nobody has to see that ugliness.
Yeah. Especially, God forbid, press. Right. You gotta just keep your mouth covered.
Can you imagine?
How do you eat? I mean, I guess everything through a straw, but...
That's the worst.
I mean, it's bad enough that they've already taken away all food that has flavor.
That would have been interesting to see how they eat.
Maybe now you get a turkey sandwich.
Maybe we'll find out, because don't they try to do this in maybe the next season to the...
I believe that by the end of season 3...
We'll see somebody with their mouth shut.
Yeah, Fred was talking about implementing that in...
so maybe we'll get to see how they eat.
I can't even remember. I think they're around Boston, right? Yeah, I think they're Boston area, somewhere in Massachusetts, because that's where June was, as I recall. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're in Northeast somewhere. Yeah, I think he was talking about maybe having to implement those measures.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it was all from talking. Talking was part of it. And then also a lot of the commanders like to take liberties with their handmaids, and blowjobs are a no-no. I mean, that's just a waste of good sperm.
Oh, yuck.
Can't have those anymore. So you might as well sew the woman's mouth shut, because it's all really her fault for being so tempting.
Yes. Ugh. And Offred comes back from that trip with a veil over her face. So it's like a sign of she's accepting it. Now the rest of you, because she's your leader.
Oh, they were definitely implementing face coverings in the Boston area, but they weren't going as far as sewing mouths shut yet.
Right. Well, not that we know of.
Not that we know of, but it still might be coming. Yep.
Janine will definitely get her mouth shut. Or is she still alive?
I'm pretty sure she's still alive.
She'll be one to get her mouth sewn shut.
I admit, I can't. There was so much that happened in 3 seasons. I can't remember all of it.
She's going to look great with no eye and her mouth sewn shut.
But when we watch these new episodes, we'll talk about like if Janine's there and she's doing stuff, we'll do a little bit of Janine backstory when that comes up in the series.
Yeah, she's a great character.
We got to refresh ourselves. Yeah, she's awesome. So Nick is now a commander, but is being sent to the front of the war in Chicago to quash the rebellion.
Right.
Seems like another way to try to get him out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And
he didn't want to be commander, from what I recall.
No, well, not like that, especially. Like, he wants to be with June. He's in love with her. Meanwhile, Joseph, who was sort of like, he's letting people do resistant shit in his house, but he's not part of the resistance. He's still sort of a believer in some ways. He just doesn't want to be he doesn't want to be part of anyone's shit. Right? But then all the commanders come over and they're like, we want to make sure that you fuck your handmaid. So he has to fuck June. Yeah, it sucks.
While they're there. And did they watch?
I don't think they watched the act, but I think they looked for proof of it. Like, they might have.
That's right. They checked the woman for sperm or something.
Yeah, I think they checked her for cum. It's gross. It's just gross.
Can't you just use some lotion or something?
So that damages Joseph's wife to where she winds up overdosing on pills and killing herself. And he's broken anyway. He's like, I can't do this anymore. He sort of basically says, like, I'm part of the resistance now. Let's do what you want to do. And June's plan is to get as many kids out as humanly possible.
Yes.
So, I don't know. June winds up going back to Jezebel's for some reason. She kills Commander Winslow. I know that much. Like the head dude of all of these pieces of shit. And Serena makes a deal with the CIA, lures Fred out to the middle of nowhere, and then they cross the border into Canada, and Fred and Serena both get arrested. Serena at first has visitation rights with Nicole. That was her deal. But then, and I don't understand this part. Explain this to me. We know that Serena... Okay, the world has figured out about the whole Handmaid thing, right?
Right.
The world gets it. And the CIA guy definitely knows that Serena is married to a commander and that the whole thing that these commanders do is fuck handmaids.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that's known, and they let Serena make this deal where she turns in Fred, so they have a political prisoner now. And in return, she gets to try to build herself a new life at a very basic level in Canada. But then Fred is like, oh, well, if Serena turned on me, well, how about this shit? She was part of the rape.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take away all her rights. They rescind her deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there should have been a little more deliberation about that. It's not like she had a choice. I mean, she did have a choice because some of them were into it. Did she have a choice? They should have questioned that. There should have been some kind of trial.
Well, and
although they are just arresting her, I'm sure she'll get a trial. They're Canadians.
I mean, I hope so. Like, Serena's a piece of shit too, but there's part of me that feels kind of bad for her in that she's like trying to make things better. She's trying to sort of do the right thing, maybe for selfish reasons, but
that's not the way the law works. Just because you try to make things better doesn't mean you didn't break the law.
But when you make a deal, I just feel like the whole thing about her participating in the rapes was not a secret. Why are they acting surprised about that just because Fred said so?
They didn't know.
They must have known something. It's the fucking CIA. I don't know.
I don't know either, but they didn't know. It's not the CIA, it's Canada.
No, they're in Canada. Oh, and way to go, Canada. There's a whole, Little America colony in Toronto or something. Canada just embraces the American refugees because that's what you do when shit goes down in a country and people are trying to escape because they don't want to be murdered.
Or enslaved.
Canada. Better than America once again. As it is in real life. I mean, Jesus Christ, we won't let refugees in now. Even under Joe Biden, he's like, nah, 15,000 refugees for an entire year is more than enough. We don't need to change Trump's thing, even though he said he was going to on the campaign. Just
Hey, back off, man. He's working shit out. He's only been in there for a short time. He's going to change it. He just has to. Things can't happen just like that because paperwork.
Well, they said they weren't going to change it. And then there's a bunch of backlash, so they might wind up changing it anyway. But.
Right. I don't think that they meant they weren't going to change it. They were just not going to change it at that moment.
Well, we'll see. We'll see over these coming months. People need help. So you can't dilly-dally on that stuff. Anyway, so Fred and Serena are both in prison now. Or detention of some kind. In Canada.
You forgot to mention that Serena and June became somewhat friends.
Well, yeah, they
in
had
the Resistance.
sort of reconciled. Wait, Serena and June. Serena and June. Yeah, they were getting along for a while.
They were working together while Fred was in the hospital from
we
the
talked
explosion.
about that.
Oh, but I don't remember saying that.
A lot has happened in the last hour. Well, they were almost friends, but you couldn't push that too far. Serena would freak out and then slap you.
Oh, yeah, and that's when she got beaten.
Yeah. And then all of this ends with the big plan of the Handmaid's Network and the Martha Networks. All the resistors have come together. We're one big escape where they get like 50 children out of the country. And it wasn't easy. They had to run some distractions involving throwing rocks. So that all came back, the whole stoning thing. And that was kind of fun. You teach them to stone, they'll do more stoning.
Right.
So they were able to distract some guards and get the kids, 50 fucking children in pink, all the way around.
Why not just give them like some sweats?
Because they don't have them. They don't exist in this world.
No, Canadian or whoever was coming, they should have had like boxes of sweats. That would have been a good cover. I'm transporting these sweats.
Sweatpants. Children's sweatpants to America. They managed to get all these children out and a bunch of handmaids, including, well, no, Emily was already in Canada. I can't remember who made it out from the handmaid side. But they get some handmaids out, tons and tons of children out.
Oh, yeah, that's another side story. Emily now in Canada with her wife.
I mean, they were married.
Yes, they didn't.
I guess maybe they weren't legally married anymore because America took those rights away.
But now it's all weird.
Yeah, and their relationship is very strained now.
And Emily is so broken.
Yeah, big time. But we'll see where that progresses. But in the end, June winds up getting shot by one of the guards, and she winds up killing that dude back, which is kind of cool. Way to go, June. But she's like bleeding out and dying, and then a bunch of handmaids come and pick her up and take her to, I guess, safety. I don't know where you can take a bleeding handmaid in a world with minimal hospitals that are all under heavy guard, but whatever.
We'll find out.
Somebody's gonna
know. Oh, remember there's the baby doctor lady. Maybe she can take care of her.
Oh, the lady that was working as like a janitor in the hospital, but then
she's a pediatrician.
They needed an expert pediatrician, so
she's like a world-renowned pediatrician.
Right. It's one of those self-serving things again. I think that was Janine and Warren, right? So the Warren's family, like they were in on the plan. Again, hypocrisy. You don't want women to be able to do anything unless it could save your baby, and then we'll let her like read and talk for a day or two.
Be a doctor.
Then we'll put her back into being a janitor again. Oh, God. Hypocrisy is the worst part of government. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So anyway, that was 3 seasons of Handmaid in about an hour. So I guess good on us. We didn't cover everything.
No.
Lots and lots of characters and side plots and backstories.
Horrifying things happened.
So many horrifying things. Yeah, there was a lot of shit. I mean, all the flashbacks we saw of the trainings with Aunt Lydia, and then some of the shit Lydia did in the present day,
and we got to see her past too, which makes you feel a little bit bad for Lydia.
Except she turned into a monster.
But did she turn into a monster because they made her be one?
I don't even know.
She got mad at that man.
Things were on the up and up. She had a friend who she was like a mother figure to. She had this guy that she was falling in love with, but then he panicked because he didn't want to have sex with her, and then they broke things off. And the next thing you know, she goes off the deep end.
Yeah.
And
turned her cuckoo because she had never dreamed that she could have a relationship. And then she became friends with that girl.
And then she got the girl's daughter taken away because the girl was like, I don't know, a stripper or something. Or whatever. I don't know what she wound up doing. But yeah, but then she embraced this new regime and became the chief of the monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ants. They are the worst. And she's still alive, so we'll see what happens. She got stabbed real bad in the back, but she survived that one. So there's lots of things to see in season 4. I don't know how many seasons the show is planned for, but at some point, June either has to get out or be killed.
Yeah.
Like, this is a hard right, very murderous group of people. And she keeps breaking their rules and laws and destroying things and murdering. And I don't know. Will she wind up back with Joseph? Is he still going to be part of things? I
don't know. Maybe he'll be sent to the colonies.
It seems like they're suspicious of him anyway. And now 50 children get away. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait. This week?
It's coming back this week. I guess I should look up exactly the day, right? I want to say it was April 28th. I'm pretty sure I made a note of this in our overall coverage timeline. Handmaid's Tale, April 28th. So that is Wednesday. Coming back on a Wednesday night. Not many shows that take anything but a Sunday. So thank you, Hulu.
Yeah.
We will start watching it, and we'll try to record a podcast about that first episode soon.
Yay! Maybe we should rename the podcast.
Pod of Handmaids?
It should be Pod of Tales.
Pod of Tales. You really want to rename this show.
It just Game of Thrones is no more.
It's coming back.
It won't be called Game of Thrones.
We're going to do a marathon.
Okay, we'll do that, and then we'll decide.
Okay. Sounds good. If there's anything we missed, let us know. If you have anything you want to say about The Handmaid's Tale or anything else, just get in touch with us. You can find me on Twitter, Jeff at that's my email. You can find me on email, jeff@potofthrones.com.
Jennifer at potofthrones.com or at KidFreeWeekend on Twitter.
On the Twitters, and I am at Pod of Thrones on Twitter. So reach out to us anytime. Let us know what you think. I don't know. I'm just going to go curl up now and brace myself, because I feel like some really bad shit's going to happen in just a few days on Hulu.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
We'll finally have resolve.
There's going to be some more ghoulising for sure. Yep. All right. We'll be back soon.